Are we ready, kids? Because I'm not sure I am. I have just rewatched my first quarterly video just to like remind myself how I structured it last time and see if I can copy that again. My main takeaway from that experience is that I didn't save any of the screenshots of the data from the first time. So the bits that have now changed, because I just keep adding to the same spreadsheet, I will just have to screenshot from the old videos so you have some kind of comparison, and I apologise if the quality's a bit pants as a result. I did not plan ahead and therefore can only blame myself. Soz. The other disclaimer is that I still have a hyperactive kitten. You will have seen in the last video, she's a pain in the ass. She's still climbing up my legs. She is in a right mood because she's just eaten. So if there's a kitten, there's a kitten. That's how kittens work. Just like the last video, we are going to split this up into 5 parts. We are going to have the general stats video where I just go over all the stats, all the graphs, lots of graphs on screen. If that's your thing, fantastic. You're going to enjoy the first half of this video. Then I'm going to go through my purchased books, all the books that I've bought in the last 3 months, where I'm at with like total spent, all of that lovely stuff. Then we're going to go through my series updates, so where I'm at with the series that I wanted to finish, what have I started, what's now ongoing, what does that look like compared to last time, any recommendations I've got, and then any takeaways and goal adjustments as a result of my reading for the last 3 months. I'm currently filming this at the end of July, so we're like a good chunk of the way into the 3rd quarter of the year, so I'm hoping I can sift out the books that I have more recently read because they are more recently on my mind. Let's start with general stats. Okay, so total books read in the 2nd quarter of this year is 46. That is 2 books less than the 1st quarter, which doesn't say a lot for my goal of reading less, but we'll get to that. But I did DNF 27 books as opposed to the 12 in the last quarter. So I've been a bit more heavy-handed with that. I've been very clear about what I do and what I don't want to read, which I think is a good thing. But that has had some consequences that we'll get to when I start talking about ratings, because that got a bit out of hand. With regard to where I am reading, I am primarily reading books that I own. That is the main spike in all of these graphs. April and May definitely sort of scattered over all different areas, but June and July look the same. So I've read a little bit from Everand. Most of it has been owned books, and then 2 from the Fantasy Hive, so I had 2 arcs that I wanted to read and get out of the way. I currently have no arcs waiting to be read, and that is like a little milestone for me. I'm very happy about that. I'm pretty much just reading owned books, but the way that I log them on here is even if I'm listening to them on Spotify or Everand, or like if I'm audiobooking them, if I own them physically, then that goes on the owned column because I already spent money on them to own them physically. Like that's like the Trump source, if that makes sense. So although for June I've only got 1 book on Everand and nothing on Spotify, I know for a fact that I listened to most of at least 2 books on Spotify and at least 1 on Everand. So they went on the owned one though because they are on my TBR. That's just how I log stuff. With regards to formats, again, April and May are the same, so audiobook and physical basically the same. June massively dropped off because I mostly listen to audiobooks on commute, but I also work in the education sector, so I was doing a lot of working from home and then just being on holiday in June, so I was listening to fewer audiobooks. I'm not really gaming as much as I was in the 1st quarter either, so when I play games like Stardew Valley or Dragon Age or something like that, I've played them so often that I can just listen to audiobooks and I don't have to listen to the actual like content of the games. I can play it blind pretty much, whereas the only game I've been playing in the last quarter is Baldur's Gate 3, and if you don't listen to what's going on there, you end up blowing stuff up. So much fewer audiobooks on the cards in June. I'm surprised by the number of ebooks as well, because I really don't enjoy ebooks, but sometimes that's the only way you've got to get a book. Everand has a good selection of ebooks, which I have been using, so shout out if you need a new source for audiobooks and ebooks. Everand's a good place to start. Ratings, right, let's talk about ratings. These are my ratings for the last 3 months. Look at those DNFs. Look at them. Look at those DNFs. I fucking hate them. I will say that the 5-star decline kind of continued, because in the 1st quarter my 5-star started really high and just declined after that. Definitely continued in April. Lovely little bump of 5 stars in May, but that's just because of the sheer number of books that I read in May, so that's not really anything to shout about. Statistically, it was going to be higher because I read a stupid number of books. And then June, no 5 stars at all. Should be illegal. You are stepping all over my keyboard. No 5 stars at all. Very, very sad. 4 stars and 3 stars, fine. But like, woof. Woof. With regard to the DNFs, I was making a concerted effort to clear through my physical and my digital TBRs because I was just so unexcited by the books that were on them. So you would have seen by now that I did a big clear out of my digital and my physical TBRs. That was what a lot of the DNFing was for as well. I was just trying them and I was ditching them. I did not do that for trying the first chapter of for the video where I did trying the first chapter of every book on my physical TBR, I was not counting those as DNFs. That was just me doing a little triage. So the ones that I got rid of, I didn't count those as DNFs. I just took them off my lists completely. I am much more comfortable now with the volume of books that I am reading and the quality of the books that I am picking up. I will say, I think I have come out of my burnout a little bit. I have come out of my sort of obsession with trying to read as many books as possible. And that is a much healthier mindset for me to be in right now. Very happy with that. It took me a couple of months to get there, but I'm in it now. And that's okay. Happy with that. In the first quarter, I was logging my DNFs as zeros on my spreadsheet, which was really skewing the data of how my average ratings were calculated. Because obviously, if you have a whole bunch of zeros in amongst the 1, 2, 3s, 4s and 5s, it's going to pull the average down. That was okay in the first chunk of the month because I wasn't DNFing quite so much, but because I DNF'd fucking 11 and 14 books in April and May, my average ratings were pretty fucking terrible. We were in like the 2s, sometimes the 1s as an average because it was just so poor. So I've decided that I'm just not rating my DNFs in my spreadsheet, and that has changed the data considerably. So with regard to the average rating of the whole quarter, before I changed my DNFs, my average rating was a 2.4 star, and then I got rid of all the zeros and it jumped straight back up to a 3.62, which is fine. I'm pleased with that. Could be better, but I think it's much more realistic than a 2.4 because I just didn't think that was accurate. So that's how I'm going to be calculating that for the future. I have been doing myself a real favour and I've stopped picking up chunky books. 1 or 2 here and there, yeah, but like I've just kind of stopped picking them up. They're too much. Much shorter books. Like my May page breakdown, the blue one. Oh, perfect. That is how I think it should look. June is pretty good. I could do with some smaller ones in there, but we're getting to the breakdown of books that I feel comfortable with, and I think that's great. I like me a short book. I like to read lots of short books. The genres. All the genres. That's an overall. So overall for the year, this is where my genres is at. Obviously, fantasy. Still that spike. That's never going to go down. That's just going to get bigger and bigger. We know what I'm like. Mystery. Jumping right out of there. Mystery and litfic. Again, I don't know why litfic is so high. Like, if you told me to list any of the litfic books I've read this year, I could maybe name 3, but apparently I've read 8. I also feel like I've read more mystery books than that, but maybe I'm just sort of underestimating. I don't know. I've also added some genres onto there, so I don't think we had any classics. We definitely didn't have any middle grade historical fiction or speculative fiction. Historical fiction is bumping up. I had a little phase there of historical fiction. I really enjoyed that. Yeah, that's pretty much what I'd expect it to look like. So happy with that. Now, the awards. The oldest book that I read this quarter was The Caravanners. That was published in 1909, republished more recently by Handheld Press. That was a good book. I enjoyed it. It's about caravanners. If you want more information on that, read the Raiding My Parents' Library taste test video. The newest book I read is Tide for House of Frank and Strange Beasts. They are the 2 bindery titles that are coming out on October 15th of this year. I was lucky enough to get a NetGalley arc of both of them, and I absolutely adored both of them. I've written reviews for both of them on the Fantasy Hive. Big fan. House of Frank will make you bawl, and Strange Beasts will creep you the fuck out. The shortest book I read was Old Possum's book for practical cats. I listened to, I think it was Judi Dench read this as an audiobook. It took about an hour and a half. It's a poetry book, which is why it's so short. It's also so much more racist than I remember. It made me very uncomfortable. I'm pretty sure I listened to the unabridged version. This is the book that inspired the musical Cats. Yeah. The longest book I read was The Grey House. This came in at 732 pages. It is a good book. It didn't need to be that long, but if you like completely plotless character studies, 100% read this book. It's so interesting. It's about a residential house for physically disabled kids and the way they just run wild and the way that they live, and it's just such a joyful representation of disability that I've not seen anywhere else. It's translated from Russian as well, which is quite cool. So highly recommend you giving that a go. If you can stand a 700-page book that has nearly no plot. The total money that I spent was £300 and 55p, £50 more than the first quarter. It was May. It was May that got me. Here are the stats. There you go, May. Huge fucking spike. Huge, huge, huge. Can't remember what I spent that on. Hang on, let me check. Oh yeah, we went to Cardiff. That was it. We did a little day trip to Cardiff and we just kept going in bookshops and secondhand shops and the fancy secondhand shops that where the books aren't actually that cheap. So in my head I was doing a good thing by buying secondhand books, but I wasn't doing a good thing for my wallet. It's done now. I made up for it a little bit in June, I think, and you get a bonus glimpse of July there. I'm filming this 4 days before my birthday, so that July one is gonna go up before the end of the month because I'm gonna buy some fucking books. And then, yeah, my average rating, which I said earlier, would have been 2.4 stars, but because I changed the way I do my DNFs, it is now 3.62 stars. Perfectly reasonable. Happy with that. The next section, purchased books. So these, I can't fit all the books that I bought on one screen. So this is everything I bought in April. This is everything I bought in May. And this is everything I bought in June. So I've already read quite a few of those. I've actually started tracking, doing a percentage for how many of the books that I have bought this year have I read. And I currently am at 73%, which I think is perfectly reasonable because I do make a habit of usually buying books that I have already read. I've not been doing that so much just because it is fun to get a new release or pick up a book that you've never heard of before. So I've been doing that a little bit, but you know, 73% is pretty good. I have also unhauled, unread 5% of the books. That's where my triaging came in. So that's how I decided I was gonna track that, because I'm not gonna mark them as read because I didn't read them, but I also don't want those gaps to be sitting there unacknowledged for the whole year. So far of the books that I have bought, I have unhauled 5% of them without reading them. Not particularly proud of that, but there we go. I will say I think my attitude towards buying books has relaxed quite a lot since that first quarter, and I think that's okay because I'm not doing anything I can't afford at the moment. I'm just prioritising buying books over other things sometimes, and that's okay. Series updates. Right, this is what my series tracker looks like now. This is what it looked like before. This is what it looks like now. So, a bit of a difference. I have DNF'd quite a few more series, I have finished quite a few more series, and I'm up to date with quite a few more series. Let's start with the ones that I specifically said I wanted to finish before the end of the year though. So I had the Falconer series, the Witches Don't Burn duology, and the Diviners series. I have DNF'd the Falconer series. That was one of the books that I read the first chapter of because I was planning to reread the first book so I could carry on and read the rest of the series. I'm now too old for that series, and that's okay. So I'm not gonna try and read the whole one now, and that's fine. That's the healthy decision. The Witches Don't Burn duology, done it. Finished it. It was fine. It was a perfectly entertaining YA witchy coven-y book. If you're into that sort of thing, I would recommend it. And then the Diviners, I have just finished the third book and I have immediately ordered the fourth, which is the last book, and I'm very excited to get to that. So we're moving with that. We're moving and I'm still excited about it. So that's also a win in my book. I have started a few more. I think I've added a few more series on here. I'm not entirely, like, I've put the Hitchhiker's Guide series on there, of which there are 5 books, and I did enjoy the first book, but I don't know how excited I am about reading the other books in the series, so I don't know how much I'm going to prioritise that. We will see. Also the Regency Dragons series by Stephanie Burgess. This is a romantasy Regency series where people have pet dragons, and I surprised myself by really enjoying the first book, so put it on my series tracker, and now I just don't know if I want to pick up the rest, so I'm kind of in two minds about that one. And the Hannibal Lecter series. I did read Red Dragon and I did quite enjoy Red Dragon to an extent, and I've put it on here, but I also don't know how desperate I am to carry on reading that series. I feel like there's a lot of other books I would rather prioritise. So we'll see how many of these are still on here at the end of the year, and then at the end of the year I will probably make the decision as to whether or not I'm DNFing some that I'm no longer interested in. And that's fine. I feel much less pressured about my series tracker. Everything is fine. I've also just not picked up a lot of books and series. I don't think I've started a new series for a hot minute, and I'm okay with that. It's quite relaxing. not starting new series left, right and centre. On to my recommendations. So, what would I recommend you from the last couple of months? Well, I've already said The Grey House, definitely read that. The Tainted Cup I did get around to reading and I loved it, would highly recommend that if you want a Sherlock Holmesian kind of vibe, but set in fantasy feudal Japan where everything is fueled by fungus. Yeah, I think that's the best way of describing that. It's really good. Oh, Slewfoot by Brom. Loved it. There is a reason his books are so popular, and it's not just the illustrations, even though they are easily the best bit. The plot is just as good as the illustrations, and they just all mesh together so well, and the way that the book is formatted just makes you feel like you're reading a work of art. So highly recommend Slewfoot if you have a chance. I am going to endeavour to pick up Krampus before Christmas so I can read that around Christmas time. The Sky on Fire by Jen Lyons I got an arc of it and I fucking loved it. It was so good. The book is now out. Please consider picking up Sky on Fire by Jen Lyons. It is a standalone, queer, polyamorous heist story with dragons, and the dragons are the ruling class, and it's just so well done and it's so funny. And you know how there's usually only one snarky character who's like the entertainment? They're all snarky in this book and it's fabulous. Did I mention it's a standalone as well? It's so good. Shout out to Garlic and the Vampire. I've started reading graphic novels a little bit not more, and this one is just so cute. It's about Garlic, who is one of the many vegetables that this witch has magicked to life in her garden so that her vegetables can look after her vegetable patch. Brilliant. Love it. Amazing. And I think just a little surprising shout out to Everyone in My Family Has Killed Someone by Benjamin Stevenson. I'm really getting into my murder mysteries at the moment, and that one is fantastic. Breaks the fourth wall the whole way through, but does it in such a way that it's still funny and you still get caught up by the twists and turns. It was so entertaining, and I've got the second one on my wish list already and I'm going to enjoy it. It's going to be so good. Hugely recommend. Okay, lastly, my takeaways and my goal adjustments. I don't think I need to do much adjusting at the moment. I feel like I'm in a very chill place. I feel like I'm happy with where my reading is at. I don't feel like I'm overdoing it. I feel like I did get quite slumpy and I did have a little bit of a burnout, but that's done now. And I feel like I'm in a much healthier place with reading. And I think having 0 arcs on my plate that I feel pressured to review as soon as humanly possible is very good for me. And I'm going to enjoy it while it lasts. But yeah, those are my stats for the second quarter of the year. I hope that all made sense. I'm going to have a well of a time editing this all together, and I apologise if any of the screenshots were a little bit blurry, because I will save my screenshots this time so that I can access them for the next video. Didn't think about that the first time around, did I? Lovely. Thanks for watching. Like and subscribe if that's something you feel like you would like to do. It does help me on the YouTube algorithm and shows other people that I'm here, that I'm making videos that they might also want to watch. Yes, helps me out a great deal. That is all from me. See you next Sunday.